Yeah, those guys, and they're starting to pop up. You know, Bohannon's got some of the records now, some of ours. He's on some of the lists in the conference with some of the things he's done. You know, West is closing in on the single-season assist record. You know, Paul, you know, he's playing his best right now. You know, even looking back at last year, and he had a good run last year. You know, his numbers and the way he's played here in the last 5 games is as good as he's played in his time here. So, you know, all 3 of those guys are playing well. But as we know, you know, you get to senior night, and it's more about what they've done over the course of their careers. And if you talk to them over the next couple of days, the only thing they're going to want to talk about is Indiana State. I mean, they're in protecting the home floor and trying to get their last one on our home court. But from my standpoint, those guys, you know, and Paul, you know, maybe a little bit more, took a little bit more of a chance coming back here. And when I say that, just simply because we were familiar with him, he was familiar with us, but he doesn't have as much in terms of the background with our place as Bo and Wes would have, being in-state guys. So Wes transferring back here maybe wasn't as much of a stretch as Paul transferring in here, just because, again, what I just mentioned. And, but boy, all 3 of them, it's been with a lot left to do. And I understand just a week of regular season, conference tournament, and then postseason. So maybe in terms of weeks or days, you know, not a ton of them. But in terms of games and importance of games, there's a lot left to do. And when you think about what those guys were a part of a year ago and what they helped build to get to that point and what they're doing right now and the way we're playing, Gare, that's a pretty good 2-year run with a lot of important games to play still. And that credit goes to those 3 guys. And then the last thing I would tell you about them, that stretch in early January when we did drop the 4 in a row and 6 out of 7, you know, that thing can go 100 different ways. And the hardest way for it to go is to be winning 7 of 8 and playing your best basketball. You know, that's the one you all of us like to have happen and in some ways expect because of what our program has done, but it's still the hardest one. You know, you don't go from losing 4 in a row to winning 7 out of 8 without great leadership. So those 3 guys, they you know, they made it happen at a hard time in our season, and I think that's great. I think that they will be talked about in that fashion by our fans, and I think that's terrific.
Your approach may stay consistent at that distance. Do the players take on a different sort of air or edge about them, knowing that there's a couple games left in the regular season and tournaments right around the corner?
You know, I think they do a little bit, Sully. I do. I think that they get, you know, they understand that the last home game is Wednesday, the last regular season game is Saturday, and that, you know, obviously Arch Madness, you know, begins next weekend. And as you get older, you know, even as a junior, you start to, you know, it makes a little more sense to you. You know, when you're a freshman and a sophomore, it doesn't change as much for you because you know you've got, you know, another year or another 2 years or another 3 years. But when you're a junior or senior, there's no question that starts to be a part of what you're doing, Sully. And that's where I give those guys a lot of credit for the way they've handled it. You know, I think that they've used it the right way. They've used it as motivation that's been positive for them and positive for our team, and it hasn't hindered us at all in terms of how we're playing and how we practice, how we go about our business. They've been really good with it.
What are the concerns with playing Indiana State?
Their backcourt is very good with you know, Devontae Brown and Brenton Scott and Christian Smith. You know, you got 3 guys that 2 of them been around for a long time, and then Brenton Scott, who scored a bunch of points against us the first time. He's had some other games where he's gotten, you know, mid to high 20s, even into the 30s, and they are very good in transition. You know, they bring it at you, and they drive it at the basket and get points that way. And they're capable of making a bunch of threes if they get going. And so we're going to have to defend in transition. We're going to have to defend their backcourt. And they're playing enough guys now. You know, I watched the game yesterday, Garen. They're playing enough guys now where they've got some depth and some different guys that can do some things. So, but it starts with their backcourt. You know, those guys are very good players, and they are experienced and very capable against anybody.
They have really struggled of late. Have you been able to pick up what kind of a hamper in them?
You know, watching them, Gary, it just appears they're just off track just a little. You know, like I mentioned, you know, with our team, I watched our guys when we weren't playing as good as we should have been playing or would have liked to have been playing, we weren't that far off, as evidenced by the way we've played now for a month, right? I mean, it just when you're in conference play, it just doesn't take much. If you're not, you don't have all the wheels on the tracks. It doesn't take much. It's not. It's hard to win night after night, and so that to me, that's all it is, Gary. I mean, it just appears that they're just off the tracks a touch, and with a group like that, it doesn't take much to get them back on the tracks. So they're, like I've said, and I know everybody knows it. They've got a good team, and they're very capable every night.
With 2 games to go, are you mathematically locked into 6th